Good day, everybody. Thank you for joining us and taking some time to take a look a bit closer at AI, especially as it applies to your businesses. AI for medium to large businesses. And our focus in this session is to cover the four must-know principles for smooth and successful AI adoption. It may be that you already have some AI going on, but we want to take a step back to look at what is important to ensure that you actually are going to get the most, all the benefits that are advertised from AI, and avoid the pitfalls. This event is being brought to you by P2L Inc. Play to Learn, right, Mike?
That's us. Hey,
A- And Zitiso, that's me. And our teams, obviously, the people that work with us to support engaging businesses like yours. Now we
sounds
have,
great.
yeah, we have a lot of experience working with training, with consulting, with projects, with technical, and obviously over the last, well, for myself, over the last 15 or so years, working with large data and AI systems. And I know that Mike has been ongoing, and you have a particular interest right now in AI with AI ethics, I think.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we definitely do. And governance is a big thing that's coming along. I think most companies are kind of looking at what they need to do ahead of legislation that is to follow. But if you're out there, you're doing things with AI globally, you need to know the rules out there that in certain areas, right? Which
Yeah.
kind of leads us into our next April 2nd webinar, but we don't want to tip our hand just now.
That's coming up later, so stick around.
Right. Stick around for that.
Now, allow me to introduce you to my dear colleague, Michael Parker. He's actually the host of this. You may have seen his email address in your inbox as he was inviting you to get connected to this webinar and also communicating with you after to be able to watch the recording. So born in Peterborough, Ontario. Is that the kayak or canoe capital of the world or something like that?
They may claim that, but it's a bunch of really weedy small lakes, but it's a great place to grow up and swim.
And diverse education, because you definitely have family in the States as well and spent
Ye-
time overseas.
Yeah, correct. So I moved to the United States when I was 12. But I worked in Germany, worked in Finland, studied for 5 years in Russia and got a master's there. So yeah, been around the block, University of Cambridge in there as well. So it was fun to travel. You've had a bit of travel too in your work experience.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
I'd love to have more. Of course, COVID slowed me down a bit, but we're looking to get back out there.
Yeah.
I find your work history very interesting, like cancer research and then moving into technology and corporate training. How did you make that shift?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was working in cancer research, and that was one of the reasons I really wanted to go to St. Petersburg, was the top researcher in the world for for cancer research, the type that we were studying. He was over there. Didn't actually get a chance to meet him. His wife was sick at the time. But the transition came when I came back and just looking for a job. And in the 90s, IT was kind of taking off. And I saw a real correlation between biology, the way that the human body is set up, and the way computers work.
Mm,
So the neurological system, the brain, having analogs within information technology. So it all kind of made sense to me from that perspective. But if you look at my resume and look where I worked, it looks like a lot of hop frog.
but that diverse experience positions you really well in the running of your business in collaboration with me to reach out to more businesses. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, very diverse. So I am happy that you're happy to be doing this.
Thanks.
And this is me, obviously, Christine Thompson, author, speaker, among other things, as you can see with my list down the side. So, like Mike, had a lot of uh, very exciting, different opportunities working with large companies. I do obviously have a heart for small and medium-sized businesses, and this is why Mike and I got together to do this, is, to still support our current clients, but also to actually support and encourage and lift up other companies uh, to diversify and excite businesses as a whole. So
Perfect.
my background is strong technically. This is really at the heart of what I do. But definitely the philosophy I have is to set everybody up for success. So is that something that Mike and I can do for you?
That
In
is the
our,
million dollar question. So
yeah.
right now we're still seeing the slide with the webinars.
Oh,
Yeah, just we were kind of pointing out that the AI compliance laws in EU coming up April 2nd, but
so
we
let
do have
me,
a PowerPoint presentation as well.
yeah. So my apologies for that.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So uh, we talked about Mike. That's his picture. And this is my picture. This is about me. So this will all be in the bundle, the PDF bundle that those of you that had registered for this event will be able to get a copy of. If you want a copy of this and you weren't registered, just reach out to either Mike or me. So our offerings, we offer like our focus is on AI. Obviously, we can support a lot of different technology, but because this is the one that is changing the way we work, this is the one that's having the revolution of actually directing any and all other business work as well as technical work to support it. So I do consulting, strategic planning, and governance for AI, and that we do have core products that you can look at and take a piece of or all of that basically you can see the inner wheel, excuse me, that we have here. So starting with AI assessments, where are you at today? What are the gaps? And then coming up with a training plan. You don't have to go with us for the training, but it may be helpful to know what training is actually needed and having it targeted rather than having to buy into somebody's prepackaged curriculum, being able to say, well, we don't need that, but we need this. And then that feeds into the learning journey as you're going through taking courses, getting your people upskilled, is that there needs to be a way to transfer that knowledge over into the practical skills of getting the job done. And we can give support and identify where some of those touch points might be useful. And then finally, it may be that you're going, yeah, we're all skilled, we hired the right people, but we just really need help with integrating it and leveraging AI. And I think that's where the consulting, strategic planning, and governance come into play at their greatest. So these are our core products set to help you at any level, to any degree, with your AI adoption plan. Now, getting into the meat of our discussion today, there's so much we could talk about with AI
Mhm.
that it's really hard to think about, well, what should we begin with? And Mike and I, having worked for several months now together, building up this specialized part of our business, is realizing that no matter what your role is in a business, no matter what your job is in a business, everybody needs to know and be on board with these four principles of AI. Now, I thought a good place to start would be just taking a look at what do we mean when we say AI or AI systems? Where are we at today with this? And if you look at this picture, let me just highlight a bit, is that we got to doing AI because of all the data. We started collecting a lot of data over the decades, but definitely when cloud came along, it allowed businesses, whether they were small, medium, or large, to actually go, oh, now I can have storage. I can save all kinds of data. Now, what do we do with the data? Now, AI itself, if you ever learn more about the history of AI, has been going on for quite some time. It didn't just start yesterday. But given the evolution of all the technologies and the power of the machines, we're able to start now thinking of how we organize our data to come up with what we call the AI models, the brains of it, which kind of goes back to what you were saying with your science background, Mike. Thinking of how the brain works and the neural networks So
Mhm.
that's intended to be like the AI model. We're not going into the deep technical here, but we've heard of AI models. AI models are the brains of the AI system. They're the ones that actually are going to be looking at the data based on how they've been programmed in order to be able to be either a model that can support generating content or a model that's going to be able to recognize patterns to do predictions like weather forecasts or financial forecasts. And then another new hot topic that's come out recently is the agentic AI. So the agentic AI is one that can make decisions.
Mhm.
So it can work with generative and predictive to get the information to make decisions, but you can start thinking of agentic as being like, wow, this is actually an employee. I can train it to do a job and it can run autonomously.
Mhm.
So in the middle is really what we probably think of when I'm thinking I'm going to work with AI. Now, obviously, depending on whether you're a user over here or you're another system, a computer system, you can leverage these AI products. And that depending on what you're trying to do, whether you're a user or another computing system, you're going to choose the appropriate mechanism to interact with the AI product itself. So I wanted you to see this big picture. Hopefully, it helps to sort of simplify but enlighten that there are these moving parts. This is not just a simple little tool that you download and put on your cell phone. Even though some of the AI products, those that produce the models, actually kind of let you do that. That's really an interface that would be then working with these systems that leverage the model that have been trained or learned all this data and continue to be trained and learn all this data. So, where are you in this picture? Are you one of the ones that are responsible for working with and setting up the data sets? Are you one of those? Do you have an organization that actually has the talent to work with creating models in order to leverage your data? Or are you more of an organization that says they have a model and they're the vendor, and I'm going to write code to create our own in-house products? Or are you the kind of business user that says, well, I don't do any of that kind of technical stuff. I just want to be able to leverage it. So I'm thinking I might be preaching to the choir here, but I think most of us have heard, if not interacted with, at least one of the several Gen AI products out there. And of course, one of the more popular ones would be ChatGPT. Of course, there's others, and they're competing for it, Copilot, Gemini, just to name a couple. And so that would be you. I'm thinking, Mike, you're in the blue, and you
Mhm.
open up your browser and you go to ChatGPT, which is the Gen AI, and you start having a conversation with it. And this application here then is actually ChatGPT. Its model is called OpenAI. So it would talk to its model, and the model has all access to, has been trained on all its data. And of course, there's a lot of other data. It keeps coming in, so it keeps improving its knowledge. And you have this nice little conversation through the chatbot to be able to get the content that you want. That just being, one example. So where are you in this stack? So whether you're actually the ones that are building the AI models from scratch, or maybe you're just saying, no, that the resources needed, the talent needed for that is not something that our business is investing in, but we like the idea of having access to that technical engine. So you develop custom applications that use. So you basically have an API to talk to that back end. But maybe you're going, no, no, our business really isn't investing in strong IT teams. Yeah, we have some tech support to help us work with our technical devices, but we're just interested in the products, right? We can see the benefit of AI and we just want to go and get the product. So it doesn't really matter. And in fact, you could have a mix of this. Certainly in large organizations, we do see a mix of this. Regardless of your entry point into that world of AI, you need to be aware of and supporting and have a plan for these four essential principles. So, any questions so far? Is this making sense? And
Making sense to
definitely,
me.
yeah, if you're watching this from a recording, just note down your questions and then you can fire them over and we can definitely follow up with you. Now there are four, and I thought, let's do a backwards countdown. And I'm wondering how many of you thought the first thing you'd see here would be data. Now, maybe you thought data has to come number one because the way I told the story about how we got to AI was we started with big data. And while it's true, it's actually not the first thing you go to when you're going to be adopting AI. It's up there, it's in the top four, but it is not the thing to start with. So we need to understand data requirements as they relate to AI. Oops, sorry, let's take a closer look at that. Now, when you're looking at your data, I think many of you would already know this, that the results you get back from an AI system are only as good as the data it's been trained on. And when we say trained, it means that that neural network, that brain that I showed you, the AI model, is going to go to school by reading all that data, consuming all that data, processing all that data, analyzing all that data. It's the logic that knows how to interpret the data in order to do whatever kind of AI system we're creating. So definitely quality and quality, when you look at the definition of it, could be a number of different things, but it means that it's trustworthy, that all the pieces are there, it's a good source, and that it's actually relevant to the task. So you can have a lot of AI models out there, but were they working with data that relates to the kind of things that you want to do? Now, one of the things we also want to look at, and this would apply more to those organizations that are contributing the data to getting the AI model built, and that's the idea of the silos. So if you're not the organization that's going to be building the models and you're looking at the data set, as a consumer of a product, I want to ask the vendor, where did your data come from? How complete is it? How diverse, how well balanced is it? And then, of course, regardless of where you come into the consuming of AI, is that does it meet with regulatory issues? Now, I know that it's still evolving, and this is going to feed into our next webinar next month with our guest speaker. But it's definitely coming along where we need to have agreement about how we're controlling AI and how we're securing the data and protecting the interests of the owners of that data. Want to build trust. So even if there isn't a law right now, you should be thinking of what could the law be and let me do it right from the first time. So you want to have a strong data foundation. You don't want to have errors. You don't want to be misusing data and having things out there that, can give you a bad reputation. So it's not just about whether you built the model or not. It's about where did that model get the data, who has control over it, and how are they managing it. So if you are a business owner, a leader, an executive making decisions, definitely you want to avoid those costly mistakes, whether it's in reputation or in legal actions that can come out after because of how your organization used AI that was feeding off of data. The data has to be managed properly. So you can see the example there is a CFO wants to make sure that has accurate data. So if we're using a predictive AI product to do financial forecasting, that we can trust it, make good decisions. Now, if you're one of those that are actually using the product, or that you're a team player that's helping produce these products, then you definitely want to make sure that you're not getting confused by your test results, by your interaction with it. So our example here is the customer service agent wants to know that when it goes to the AI, that the query that it poses to it is actually giving it a reliable prediction. So we can manage our customers properly, quickly, and efficiently. So it's not just about speed, it's about accuracy. So three key steps to pay attention to is evaluating the data readiness. Now, again, doesn't matter which level that you come in at, you want to ask the question, where's the data coming from? What type of data is it? And can I trust it? You definitely want to now break down silos. If I'm the one building the data set, that's definitely something we've been doing for well over a decade, 2 decades. But if you're the consumer of it, you want to know that their data sets they're using are balanced and scoped out properly. So we want to make sure they've done the merging, they've got the consolidation, of the data across the various subject areas to give you good results. And then finally, of course, ensuring security. Maybe security should have been number one, right? But definitely that's got to be there. All right. So we know about data. We want good quality data. We want it to be available. If I'm consuming it, I need to ask that question. Where did you get your data from? How are you actually keeping it up to date? How is it being relevant? Everybody needs to be aware of the security. What should I be doing or not doing with an AI system around data security? So I wanted to leave you with what would you watch for to tell you that maybe you're doing something wrong? So poor data quality, if the results you're getting back are kind of not right, inconsistent, that is saying you missed one of those steps. Go back and check those steps over. Maybe you're getting fragmented data that you've got basically, it's more work than you thought it would be. You're kind of thinking, I should just do it myself because it's not making sense. Has anybody had that experience? I know that with some of the AI systems, the free ones that you can get out there and you play around with, you'll notice that you get them on good days and bad days. Well, that's an indication that they don't have things balanced. And then finally, if the more you use something, it should get better over time, but maybe what you have is that you're just getting repeats or you're getting, I don't know, right? I can't do that for you. I can't help you with that. So that's a scaling challenge, which again goes back to making sure that you have the breadth and depth of the data that's relevant to your task. So we do have some tools that can help us. So there's data quality audits that can be done. And this is something that you don't do just once. In other words, if you are buying a product from a vendor, you should actually be able to subscribe to the data that they're acquiring and how they're managing it and what they're doing in terms of the compliance and regulations piece as they're evolving. So definitely making sure that you get that regular report. And then, of course, doing the integration as more data becomes available and more technology strategies are in place. That again, you're continually improving it over time using the integration platforms. Now, those are very mature and they keep improving. So there's no excuse not to have a plan in place to ensure that we're taking advantage of that. So that's number 4. What do you think number 3 is? So what comes before data when you're thinking about integrating AI into your business? So before I can actually work with the data in terms of setting up my AI systems, I need to know, what am I trying to do? What are your goals? Where do you see the opportunity for AI? Like anything else that we've seen, it's not a black and white situation. There are places where AI is a really good choice and places where no, not really. And definitely, as much as we're seeing great advancements, and there's definitely a lot of powerful information coming out to suggest that, hey, anything you want to do, AI could do it for you. It's really not there yet in a number of different ways. We need to make the choice. AI is there to serve us, not the other way around. So, what are your goals? And then, based on those goals, what are the use cases? Where do you see integrating AI as a step along the way to delivering on the work that needs to be done? It should be there to help you be more productive, more efficient. Now you have access to all this data. You should be able to be more accurate in the work that you're doing. So the key focus areas of doing your use cases is thinking about the challenges that you have, and is this challenge something that AI could help me with? Anytime there's a lot of information that if you had the time to go, if I could just find the information, right, then I could actually be able to make good decisions. Then I would be able to actually create the masterpiece of work that I want to do, that I'd be able to see the patterns and know the predictions. Actually, that reminds me of the story of the storm. I believe it was last year, the hurricanes over the Gulf that came across Florida, right? And remember, with that, they had unexpected hundreds of tornadoes. So now that we have that information, and arguably one of the business models that we have that has a strong use case for predictive AI is weather forecasting. Let's look at all the data, all the history. Since we've been recording weather, we can see the patterns, and so then it can make much more accurate predictions. So, what are the challenges, and what can AI do here to help alleviate the burden that we have? Now, the other thing that we want to make sure that we do, if I'm going to choose AI, just like when we hire somebody to help us with work, you need to know the before and after. You got to be able to measure it. So, how is it doing now without AI? What are we hoping to correct? And that we can then have the things that we want it to do, actionable objectives, that we can actually say it's working. And then the third piece of working with this is that it's all well and good to have all kinds of great ideas, but it's another thing to say those great ideas actually are complementing, supporting, and building off of what the direction the business wants to go, right? So there's so many things that you could do. You need to sort of rein it in and choose what's actually going to be a good decision today. You're going to be building this over time incrementally. So make sure you have your priorities straight. So arguably as a generic statement, you can see when you do this right, is that you've actually enhanced your business. Improved customer relations, you've got efficiencies, productivity increase, and it's scalable. You can have growth with it. So for leaders, an example of this would be having a retail CEO that can then actually improve their inventory. So using AI for optimizing and improving inventory such that you know when it's time to actually order more of a particular stock and when it's not, based on the demand level that's in there. So you can save time and money and ensure that you're not having customers going to somebody else because you ran out. So that's a really good use case for AI. For those of you that are managers or team players, that an example would be you can see there the sales leader is being able to use an AI tool that can actually set priorities so that we can make some good decisions. Again, we're looking for the tipping points, the patterns that are repeatable that we may not notice because it would require us to look at a lot of history and a long period of data to see that, but this is where AI excels. So the steps that you'd want to pay attention to for your goals and your use cases is be specific. So you want to make sure that you're very clear. Don't keep it vague. Leverage managing objectives by using something like SMART. And I have the acronym spelled out. They're specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So apply this to when you're looking at use cases that would have you choose AI. And then make sure, remember that AI is there to serve people and businesses. It's not the other way around. So engage your stakeholders. Now, the stakeholders definitely in this conversation are anybody who's going to be impacted by this. The way you engage them is going to be different based on their role, but definitely, the business leader is going to be reliant on whatever technical support they have, and they're actually doing this to satisfy a customer need. So you need to make sure that you've got that engagement across the board with them. So coordinate between the various players, the ones that are going to be ensuring that AI works successfully. Don't forget the KPIs, the key performance indicators. I want to be able to watch this closely, especially when you get something new. Because if you do that, then you can see when you're not getting the results you want. You can catch it early, fix, and correct, as opposed to waiting until like a year later only to find out all that time and money you spent was for, at best nothing, as opposed to a loss. You want to make sure that you're getting what you're investing in, so watch it carefully. And with all of this, just make sure you've got good communication. So, how do you know when you're not doing it right? Remember, this is number 3. So, we started with 4 data. Number 3 is goals and use cases. So you know you're not doing it right when it's vague. You're not quite sure why. Like you're thinking, oh, everybody's doing AI. That's kind of vague. What specifically are you looking to get out of AI? How do you know it's working? So if you don't have clear ways of measuring it, then that's also an indication that you haven't done this step right. So make sure you know this is what it was like before, this is what we're hoping to get after, and we're monitoring. So, what are the indicators of success? Overcomplicated, confusing projects. AI is supposed to simplify things, not complicate things. So if you're finding that there's a lot of false starts, a lot of analysis paralysis symptoms, that's an indication that you kind of missed doing this one properly. Have any of you guys been in that situation of where it sounded like a good idea, but it's just becoming more difficult?
5 lines of bees all wanting it to do something different.
Yeah. So, yeah, get everybody on the same page, right? And
Mhm.
agree on what you're going to start with. So I like working with this tool, the AI Opportunity Matrix. So I want to definitely sort of brainstorm at the beginning, get lots of the ideas, record all ideas are good ideas to hear about, but then you're going to have consensus over what you're focusing on and how you're going to measure it to say that it's working for us. And everybody should understand what you're doing and why. They may not agree with your decision, but knowing your rationale behind it is going to help them buy in and support it. So the AI opportunity matrix is definitely something good for the analysis phase as well as for communication. And then definitely have reviews. So it could be that, what things looked like a year ago, this was a good idea and that it should work this way. And then over time, you're kind of going, well, things have changed and I've got to adjust. So you want to make sure that you've got that regular interval of reviewing and reassessing and that you're willing to be flexible about it. So you can commit wholeheartedly today and then a month later, you could say, okay, now we've got to tweak this. Now we've got to make adjustments. And it may be that you basically go, no, we're not going to do that anymore. And we're going in this direction. So be prepared for that. So that was number three. So what would number two be? So if you think of it, we've done the data, but the data was guided by our use cases. What are we trying to do? Points us to the kind of data we need. So what comes before that? Well, to frame our use cases and our goals, you need to know what the business strategy is. What is the business trying to achieve? Where's the business at today? Where is it hoping to go? So, when you're looking at the business strategy, and everybody should know this, this is not just for those in the ivory tower that come up with these great ideas. Everybody should be aware of what the business strategy is. So, you want to understand that if a leader is making the strategy for the business, and you're doing AI, it should actually come from the top to say that we're going to leverage AI in order to have that strategic advantage. And then that would feed into the appropriate identification of goals and use cases that then targets the kind of AI products and approaches you're going to take. The strategy should also feed into how we're going to improve our customer experience, how we're going to improve the way in which we get work done, so operational efficiency, and that you're getting buy-in. There is, like, think of it, one of the areas that AI has really contributed a lot to is medicine. I was thinking of that with your cancer research,
Mhm.
Mike, and there's a lot of different use cases for AI and a lot of products that come out in supporting medicine. But I have a friend of mine who is dealing with an illness in the family, and they go to the doctor, and the doctor basically talks to the AI product, and the AI product, and they're saying, well, why am I dealing with a doctor? Why don't I just deal with the AI product? There's a lack of understanding about how this works and how this supports the business. So you have to be sensitive to, how you're using the tool and who's there and who's interacting with it so that they can understand that the humans are still making the decisions and are in charge and that they're still responsible, but to be able to have like a more sophisticated search and insights into the data is what doctors are trying to leverage. So getting the buy-in. So doctors should be getting the buy-in not just with their governing bodies, the College of Physicians, but they should also be getting the buy-in from their patients and their colleagues. So make sure that the strategy that you have includes engaging all of those that would be impacted by it. So our examples for this is for leaders. Uh, we have the chief operating officer ensuring that the AI is supporting your supply chain management and that you have a strategy about cost reduction. See, that influences the kind of recommendations the AI system would make. I need to know the strategy. And that would lead me to saying, well, we've got, costs to reduce and supply chain management has an overhead to it. So I'm going to have the AI product focus on where we're losing money. So from strategy to use case to data. If you're a team member, the example we have here is being a project manager. Oh, I know I have a number of project managers that get really excited about the support they're getting from their AI tools, but optimizing, like figuring out schedules when you're, especially when you're on large projects with a lot of moving parts and a lot of, different competing things and trying to satisfy expectations, a lot of data that needs to actually coalesce. So we've got some really exciting tools that come out of it, but it has to be part of the strategy to actually say that this is what we're going to do, that this is what needs to happen. Much like reducing costs for the leadership, this is about ensuring that um, we're scheduling things properly to make sure sequences happen the way they should. So your key steps to watch for is notice there mapping your initiatives to your goals. So this is going from the strategy to saying this is a priority and this is one of our goals. You need to make sure that everybody's on board, that they know what the strategy is, and then how you're going to leverage AI, the use case, which would then have them understanding where they're going to see the different AI products. And then, of course, watch for this. I mean, I think this would be true of any of these, that you want it, whatever I'm doing with data, I want to be governing it properly. I want to be watching with it. The same thing with the use cases, the same thing with the strategies. So track the KPIs. Make sure that when you say you're investing in AI to get this benefit, that you can prove you got that benefit. And that if you're not, you detect that early and correct. So this was number 2. How do you know you're not doing it quite right? Everybody's all over the place, disconnected projects. It's one organization with one strategy. And that we're noticing this repeating theme, like for instance, the costs are escalating and we need to reduce them. So it doesn't matter what your project is, that should always be one of the checklists that you have. And if you're not seeing that consistently, then obviously uh, something's gone wrong with how we're going to do this AI strategy in our organization. Now notice that we want the leadership support, need to have the buy-in. Do you encounter anybody at work that says, I don't believe in AI? I don't trust AI?
Yes.
And then there's the opposite, those that can't get enough of it and they, are using it everywhere and anywhere. So
Yeah,
there's,
definitely. But I've seen both, right? And I
yeah,
would say, there we definitely would have people that we will talk to that say, I really want to get into AI because I know my competitors A, B, and C are doing it.
yeah,
And that is their strategy step. So, maybe there's a question we can have for them to better define their strategy step,
yeah, yeah,
as in what are your competitors using it for that scares you? What are the things that you want to achieve with AI? And let's define it that way versus
yeah,
just I want to keep up with the Joneses.
yeah, yeah. So have that clear understanding and commitment to AI that's appropriate to build your business and not just because so and so's doing it.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good example. Thanks, Mike. And then a really good symptom that you're not doing it right is that you invest all this money in these products and you're not seeing things getting better. Whatever the challenge was that you were facing, it's just made it worse. So you're not getting that meaningful value back. So, of course, you wouldn't know that if you're not measuring. It might come out more at the end of the year when you're looking at your balance sheets. We don't want it to go that far. We want to have a plan up front to avoid it. And we also want to bake it in that we can detect if we miss something, if something's not quite right. So tools that you could use is having a strategy map. So understanding the alignment of integrating AI to solve some challenges in order to make for a more successful delivery on the vision that the business has and the strategies they want to implement. So this is a good tool for that. And then definitely having more of that overview, getting real-time insights into AI projects. So definitely we're seeing that there's more opportunity to be exploited by having the AI tools that can actually look at what's going on across the board. Now we're accustomed in technology to being able to give you real time demand on how many people are logged in, how active is the website, how active is that database. We can do those technical metrics, but now we can actually get a product that can interpret those activities to give you business information. And that can be displayed in a visual way to help you make good decisions, to push for more of that because that's great, to pause it, to maybe improve things, or to actually really sort of like, okay, we got to stop, put the brakes on, and let's go back to the drawing board. So the executive dashboards for real-time insights on what your AI systems are doing. So just circling back, thinking, okay, we've covered the two, three, and four. We still have number one to do. But maybe you're starting to rethink your approach. Maybe you're wondering if you could get more support. So, are you interested in that? This is why we're here. We're here for you. So, you could be texting Mike in the chat, but you could also add comments if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're on LinkedIn and you got this recording, you can definitely send a message out to Mike or to me. Uh, then definitely we can do like a free consultation, 30 minutes. Let's just talk about it and point you in the right direction. And if it looks like we could actually be of greater help, great. But if not, then at least you get some of those preliminary questions answered and you can have confidence moving forward that you're doing the right thing for your organization, for you and your business. So I want to invite you. Ooh, this is like, discount, 100% off 30 minutes.
And
Have a
no tariffs.
conversation. And no tariffs, no tariffs. Not that we're getting political, but yes.
No.
Yeah. So going to number one, what have we missed? Okay, so we started with data and you're thinking, oh, shouldn't it start with data? But you can't do data until you know what it is you're trying to do. That's the use cases and the goals. What are you trying to achieve? What problem can AI solve? Because that's going to point you into the AI product category. And then, of course, the model and data that's backing it to make a good vendor choice, or for you to actually make the choice about what you're building. And that we know that you don't have use cases for your business without understanding the direction your business is going. So having the strategy come before the use cases, which guides the decisions about your AI systems, which is all about the data. So what do you think number one is? What have we missed? Where does it really all start? It starts with the people. So AI talent and skills. You can't do AI. AI is not just a programming language. AI is not just a tool that somebody goes and buys for, even though it can sometimes feel that way. Because just anybody can go online and start chatting with ChatGPT, but there are implications to it. And it may be that in order to get the results that you want something that's more specialized. You want it to be targeted because you really want it to deliver and give you good return on the time and money that you spend on it. Well, you actually need to have the talent and skills to do that. So, focus areas for this would be having the right talent. Now, the talent could be that you hire it and they know what they're doing and you're building your team, but it could also be that I want my team to be built up and that we can bring in experts temporarily to help support that transition. Or it could be that you've got good talent and on certain occasions you say, I need to bring somebody in that's doing this full time, right? So definitely thinking of that combination of skilling people up and collaborating with those that are in the business that have been doing this across organizations. Now, notice that I really want to encourage, I know Mike's on the same page here, that we really want you to have in-house expertise for this, expertise that's appropriate for your business and your use of AI. You want it to be long term. You don't want it to be that, oh, if Bob is not available today, you just have to stop working, right? You really want to have a program in place that ensures that you've got long term stability to have AI sustainability. And that, of course, you need to make sure that you've got a plan. What are the do's and don'ts for your organization? And even if whatever country you're in, whatever business that you're in, even if you don't have formalized laws or regulations about it, they're probably coming. But if not, you still want to make sure that you can demonstrate to your client base, to your employees, to your business partner relationships that you're reliable and trustworthy in your use of AI. You need to understand all of those layers and to get that right. So you want to focus on ethical and responsible AI practices. So everybody in your organization needs to know what the rules are. So we want to equip people with that so that they know how they're going to benefit from it, what they need to know to do and not do, so that you are actually building that advantages, competitive advantage, so important for all businesses these days. So as an example, having an AI center of excellence. People kind of in your organization need to know, what have you discovered? What have you decided? And they need to have a one place to go. And this could be simply to communicate out what you're doing and how you're doing it and why. But I like the idea of when you've done a pilot and it's delivering good results, that gets advertised to other teams so that they can actually benefit from your experience. Or if you tried something and it failed, even better, communicate that out too. Let's learn from each other's mistakes, right? And when I say mistakes, it's not like they did something wrong. It's just sometimes learning happens by doing. So want leadership to establish that kind, fostering that kind of communication and celebration activity through a center of excellence. I love this. The sales manager, this is down to the teams of people doing the work, that you get equipped with AI tools. I know what your job is. See, I understand the business strategy. And that had me think of the use case of how I can help you guys do your jobs better. I don't want you working yourself to death. I want you to be able to get your job done during the hours that I give you, and I want you to feel good about the quality of work you produced. So equipping teams with the right tools to enhance their performance. So key steps for the people factor of it is you need to know what their talent is. Where are the gaps? What are they good at? What do they need to know? Given the strategy, the use cases, and the product that you've chosen, how is this going to impact them? And how can they be equipped to use it properly and to be able to feed into how you're monitoring and checking and reviewing it? So, do you need extra support? Is that support going to be permanent or temporary? You may discover that you have some people that have talent in an area that they're not working in and that you want to basically get them repositioned. You definitely want to invest in training. It's really important that you understand that we're in a day and age where more and more the jobs are leaning on people's intelligence and creative process. Anything that is scripted, anything that's repeatable over and over again is now being delegated to machines. So, in order for people to be able to contribute to their jobs in a positive way, they need to know that they're going to get supported in learning how to do the new job with the evolution of the technology as it comes along. So, being able to have workshops. So, they've been assessed, they've got a gap, and then they have the training to help fill the gap. And notice like strategically leveraging external support. And I think this is where Mike and I sort of come in, is that we're not asking you to hire us full time and to come in there and be, an employee. We're saying that you can choose when and how we come in to support your work. So we're in the industry, we're working with a lot of different companies. We've seen a lot of things, as well as obviously continuing to work with the experts and building up our knowledge and talent. So, for things like the AI ethics, for instance. that this is definitely something that both Mike and I are active in, working with the leaders of different governments to be able to make good decisions and knowing the direction that's going. And that actually feeds in nicely to what we're going to talk about momentarily about our next webinar.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And before we leave this one, just to give a really concrete example, we're talking about sales and prediction. Um, I've been a sales manager for a number of years, and no two sales reps are the same. And any sales manager or sales executive who's watching this will identify with this. My best sales reps would be 1X, meaning if they forecasted a sale, it came in. They were amazing. They called the shots on everything. Really good reps will be 2 to 1. You know, their forecast will be 2 times as high as what's coming in. You do have some reps, probably not on your team for very long, that can be high, 6X, 8X, 10X numbers. And so their ability to predict the sales that are coming in are not good. They kind of take the approach that everyone they talk to is going to end up and be a sale, but it's simply not true. Really good sales reps have a way of disqualifying people or understanding how likely a person or company is to buy based on a lot of factors. I would just say that AI properly set up can really level the playing field among your sales reps to get a better predictive measure for you, rather than you saying, this guy's giving me, his forecast, I'm going to forecast 50% of it, which is kind of the historical way that the X number of forecast usually works. Given the right AI tools, any rep can go through and do the science of the sale. There's a science and an art to selling, but at least they can better understand the science of the sale and make your forecast more accurate. So it was just a kind of a concrete example I wanted to throw in, Christy.
Yeah. Great, Mike. Yeah. I mean, there's so many possibilities, like what you talking about sales, and other people might be looking at other disciplines. The same sort of scenario plays out. It's
Mhm.
really like, again, it goes back to what we started with, is that understanding that in AI, it starts with the data. And there's far too much data for any one single human being to be able to get through it all sufficiently to be able to have a more holistic view of what's going on, whether it's, for generating content, whether it's about making predictions about the trends, or whether it's about making good decisions. That's where the AI products are really meant to complement our work. So yeah. And definitely trying to make sure that the people have the resources they need to know how to use these tools, and that we're doing it in a way that fosters the good and reduces, if not eliminates, the bad. So, you're not doing it right with the people if what you're getting out is wrong. So, ineffective models. So if you are in a business where you're actually going to have teams that are going to be building the AI models, which can then serve as the brains to your AI product, you're building this in-house. If they're not, if they're underperforming, then like they didn't quite understand how to do this. Now, obviously, as a consumer of an AI product, how do you know if the model is any good, if it's one of the new ones out there? So being able to talk to the people, and actually, in a sense, you're interviewing the producers of the product and knowing what questions to ask, can be a very important factor. You don't want to be investing in building it, but you want to know you're buying a solid product. You don't, it's kind of like buying those cars, you don't want to buy a lemon, right? Like, and
Mhm.
how do you know until it's been out there? If you're trying to lead and be more aggressive in your business, this is where having those insights come in. Um, it's interesting, don't you think, that Mike and I decided to include this as a problem? If you have an over reliance on consultants, we definitely want to invite you to leverage our talent and knowledge and experience. But one of the things that we seek to do is to empower you to have a system in place where you can act independently with confidence and accuracy. So, what we don't want to do is make it so we're indispensable to you. We want to be indispensable as people, but not indispensable as knowledge. Yes, Mike.
We don't want to fish for them. We want to teach them how to fish.
Yeah, yeah. Want you to be successful independently. And it may be that if we recognize that the need for people like us is what you have is that we could help vet an employee that could be your in-house talent to do it. That's definitely something that both of us have had experience doing, helping you build your teams, right? So you don't want to always be externalizing this kind of dependency, especially when it comes to something that is so will become very everyday for the operation of your business. And then the other one is, and I don't know if you remember from the diagram at the beginning, so you can flip back in the pictures there, is that if you remember, I had the data, and in front of that was the brain, which is the AI model, and in front of that is the product, which is like your Gen AI, predictive AI, the agentic AI. Then there were the interfaces, right? And I had that you could have other systems leveraging. It's not just about people sitting on a browser talking to chat gpt. Like these are actually going to be engines that are powering other systems that are supporting your business. So we need to make sure that we've identified how to plug things together to make and it's not just one little, it's not a calculator that you just hold in your hand, right? This is really about orchestration of discrete parts that actually are going to elevate how your processes are done. So poor integration is another indication that you missed helping people understand what you were doing. It's not necessarily the AA product in itself, it's how things were organized and orchestrated together as designed and implemented by the people. So, what tools could you use? It's definitely understand the skills, your personal skills, you as a leader, as a business owner, you as a manager, understand yourself. But we want to encourage you to like really get an objective view of this. Like you can't proofread your own essay. Do you remember back in high school? You need to have somebody come in to actually um, give you some objective feedback. And this is why our entry level product is that the gap analysis, and that you do have a plan in place, not just once, but something that would be ongoing as things evolve. What's going to be the trigger to say, okay, time for us to reassess and to update our plan? So you now know that people come first in working with AI. This is not just a tool that you take off the shelf to help you in that moment of crisis. It has to actually target the company vision. What is your organization trying to do? And that from that, what are the goals? What are the objectives? Because without that, it's going to create chaos. You're going to think AI has failed you when AI had nothing to do with it because you just didn't take the steps, follow these principles in order to ensure that you've got the right product in the right place, working in the right way, and understood by all the stakeholders. And that, of course, going back to where we started, is that it's only going to be as good as the data it has. Could be brilliant logic in the AI model, but if the data isn't any good, what it produces is not going to be any good as well. So quality data, what does that mean? How do you determine that? That's where some expert advice can come in. So congratulations, giving you a trophy now. I hope you feel like you've actually started, thinking about things and anticipating how you can take this back and work with AI in a more deliberate and controlled manner. Now, we want to continue to support you in this, and we've got a whole webinar series that we're rolling out, and that we have our next webinar scheduled for, I believe, April 2nd, so in a month's time,
Yeah.
with Johnny Del Ayuto. And his talk will be about AI compliance laws in the EU, the European Union, and how they can impact global businesses. So, a lot of um, large businesses and medium-sized businesses, especially with the way things work these days, it's international. Uh, so, definitely understand what's going on. The reason I think it's good to highlight EU is because they're really leaders in talking about security and ethics in AI. So definitely, I'm looking forward to that. Did you want to add to that, Mike?
Yes, for sure. So Gianni is a brilliant man. He wrote a few books. One is Homo Googlis, if you want to look that up, which is sort of about the next evolution of humans beyond Homo sapiens sapiens, which is what we currently are. And that is the online version of Yourself, is the short story there, but it's a great book to read. He is very entrenched in European law. He practices law out of Rome, Italy. So he's got a terrific accent to listen to as well on the next one. But I think it's going to be a bit of a shock to some people in North America because we use so much AI on our websites and in our communications to know exactly what the regulations are in the European Union. So you definitely want to tune in for that.
Excellent. I'm really looking forward to it, and I wouldn't miss it. So we're going to be doing a follow-on email. We'll definitely keep you posted. And anybody else that you know of that you think might benefit from it, definitely connect them to us so we can get them added into the communications about that webinar and also the future ones. So thank
Yeah.
you very much for watching. And those of you that did manage to register, in addition to getting the link to the recording of this, which of course you can share with others, I wanted to package up the slide deck that you saw there so you can reference back and make it a bit easier to leverage some of the information that was there for you. And again, just a reminder to feel free to reach out to Mike and or me to request a time just to have a one-on-one chat so we can see if we can guide you in the right direction, if there's any opportunity for giving you a bit more support.
Terrific. Thanks so much. See you on the next one.